Fuckhead!
A little janky around the edges and filled with charisma, the No More Heroes series are quintessential Grasshopper manufacture games. Action games that lean heavily into their crude humour and fan service, they're unapologetically themselves on the surface while attempting to be this thought-provoking thing through the bravado. All three games so far focus on Travis Touchdown, a schlubby nerd who has a penchant for cute anime girls, porn, and his cat Jean.
Moe.
Also murder, as he soon discovers. After accidentally getting himself into the rankings for Assassins, Travis begins to embrace it as he works his way up the ladder. Introspection might come in 2018's side story Travis Strikes Again, and a complete abandonment of the deeper meanings explored in the first title and a third in 2011's Desperate Struggle, but the original No More Heroes sets everything up for each title to explore in different ways that makes each game still worth your time entirely. No More Heroes was originally released for the Wii in 2007, being tossed between multiple publishers around the world and re-released or remastered multiple times since then. It's a fantastic game. Fascinating as well, not only looking at it from a time capsule perspective in 2020, but also as a piece of work by the legendary game director Goichi Suda, or Suda51. Suda himself is an extraordinary character within the world of video games. Known for his punk mentality, his games are riddled with thought-provoking moments, unique storytelling techniques, and each title that he's made with his team at Grasshopper has been, outside of direct sequels, fairly different from each other in style, tone, and ultimately how they play. While the industry zags towards uniformity, Suda and Grasshopper will always be there to zig in the same direction, but in their own way. Nothing epitomizes this more than No More Heroes, a hack and slash game that goes against the grain where other games that would sit alongside it were heading. Bear in mind that this is post God of War, post Devil May Cry 3, games that ultimately defined where action games would head for the entirety of the next generation of consoles. Instead of following suit, No More Heroes seems to follow God Hand, Clover Studios' impossibly decisive beat 'em up with a low behind the back camera, focus on one-on-one combat, even in groups, and flashy combat not directly coming from the player, but that of the game taking those reins, while the player watches in anticipation for the next thing to happen. No More Heroes builds upon the core of most Suda-directed games, with his likes and previous life experiences building up the foundations of the game itself. Even his methods of making games goes against industry standards. He writes his stories and uses that as a base to then make his game out of. There's countless stories around the industry itself where things have been slotted in or finalised and there's no story whatsoever. If it has affected Suda's life in some capacity, it's probably going to wind up in one of his games at some point in time. For instance, Travis's past experiences as an either in-training or actual pro wrestler reflect within the game as unlockable finishing moves that become available, which in turn reflects Suda's roots working on the Fire Pro Wrestling series, wherein he began writing these against-the-grain stories and making these against-the-grain games by delivering a bleak and mature story within an era that was unprecedented during the 90s. And even today, the type of story that is told within that game to do with suicide and murder, it doesn't crop up, especially for wrestling games. This use of real life comes full force within the activities you do between each ranked fight. In No More Heroes, you can't just walk into each fight as you see fit, but you have to pay a fee each time round. Every single piece of high octane and ridiculous action that the game has in store for you is hidden behind the world's most menial tasks. You literally go to a job centre, get a part-time job, and proceed to either collect coconuts, find cats, catch scorpions, or fill petrol for cars. They're monotonous, hideously tedious, and absolutely suck the life out of you until you finish the gig. From there, you're given access to more busy work, but this one allows you to do a little bit more shady work, a little bit more murder. While from a gaming point of view, I think they're just downright terrible and hope to God to never have to collect rubbish off the floor or grind out the only reasonable payout for an assassination mission for upgrades, but from a critical analysis point of view, they're actually quite hilarious. It's like a good joke on the player, that to do the stuff you want to do, you really have to earn it. However you manage it, just do it, because how else are you going to proceed up the ranks? It's also funny having to do these part-time jobs so that I can participate in some murder, you know? The game's social commentary doesn't end there either. While the game's side stuff is used to explore the themes of the world slowly going to shit, where to make ends meet you'll actually have to do some really bad stuff, the one-on-one fights between Travis and the assassins are more of a look at Travis Touchdown's goal, what that means for him, and ultimately, the player.
The moment I've been waiting for. The name Holy Sword is now yours.
You're joking, right? I don't care about titles or power. I just want to be #1.
We, as an audience, are consistently lured into the fray via fourth wall breaking. Characters will actively talk about the controller, and even talking directly to the player as the game starts.
It's game time!
It's through this that we begin to immerse ourselves within the kooky world a little bit deeper, the cracks made in the wall, a way for our soul to spill in, inhabiting it just that little bit more.
Answer me!
It's impossible.
Impossible? What do you mean?
It's too terrible. It alone would jack up the age rating of this game even further.
So what? Who cares?
What if the game gets delayed? You don't want this to become No More Heroes forever, do you?
With this in mind, each fight then elaborates on Travis, or yourself, and the path that you could follow if you happen to begin climbing whatever ladder it is that you're on. Do you begin to lose touch with your loved ones?
Courtesy of me and my entry fee, no doubt.
My ex-wife called me the other day and I met my daughter for the first time in 10 years.
Get an ego. Perhaps you see yourself accomplishing everything and hitting your peak. Or do you wind up old, out of touch, and with nothing left around you? In some cases, you might even begin to disassociate with everything, like in the Rank 2 fight with Batgirl, a character who plays no bearing on the story as a whole, but she's going through the motions. Will you?
Damn, that's smooth. I feel alive again. Want a drink?
I'll pass.
Pop quiz. Why am I such an angry bitch? Seriously, no matter how many I kill, it's all the same. They're all going to pay. Yeah, with their fucking lives.
You're a bad girl.
No More Heroes, through its crude and boisterous charm, is attempting to reach out to the player via Travis. Don't fall into the traps these people he's facing have fallen into. Learn from them, but don't follow them. It might not be particularly deep, and to be honest, it doesn't need to be. You take it at face value, as an action game, or you can analyze it for every single drop that it provides. I love how this game plays during these big boss fight sequences. While the big rooms of nearly faceless dudes might provide light entertainment, the one-on-one fights that you've worked towards are so delightfully filled to the brim with things that it's an absolute joy, even when getting your ass handed to you multiple times can be a factor. They're what I'd classify as squeaky bum moments. Tense-filled battles, whittling down health bars and managing yours and the beam katana's battery. Knowing when to strike and when to go in for a couple slashes, learning how each sequence operates, and how to flip on the fly when, you know, they might suddenly whip it out. Combat might not be as smooth as its compatriots in the genre, and I can tell you now, turn the motion controls off if you want a good time, but oh my god, it's so satisfying. There's a moment in these games where you'll feel as if you can't do it anymore and suddenly it'll click. Yeah, you might be some person with a controller in their hands, but god damn if you don't feel good. Highlights include figuring out how dark stepping works during the true final boss, as well as getting over the third rank shtick without breaking a sweat. No More Heroes is a delight. Certainly rough in spots, and while parts of it might be a slog while actually playing it, it all works to drive home the message over the course of the game of the world is unfair. There are no heroes, but maybe look around you. See what others have done wrong, or where they've gone wrong, and try to set your own path and be the best at that.